Hello guys, welcome to the second part of the guide. In this video I'm going to show you a gameplay footage about me handling feral druids. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to slow down the video a bit so you can keep track of what I'm doing. Have Seal of Insight on. The druid is going to open with a stun. I advise you to trinket it right away. Apply Seal of Insight Judgment, then swap to Seal of Righteousness. Gather Holy Power by using Exorcism, then stun the druid. Apply Seal of Righteousness, then swap to Seals of Truth. At this point most of the druids will be hammering you like this one by using Incarnation and Berserk, but don't be afraid. Apply Seals of Truth Judgment, then swap to Seal of Justice. And now use Avenging Wrath aka Wings, and the fun begins. Use Hammer of Wrath and Judgment on cooldown, and use Word of Glory if needed. And use Exorcism if Judgment or Hammer of Wrath is on cooldown. Make sure every second cast is a Hammer of Wrath. Apply Execution Sentence so it's dot alongside with Seals of Truth. Dot will prevent the druid from re-entering stealth. Always try to keep up the buff you get from judgmenting while you have Seals of Righteousness. And always have a dot on the feral druid. And use Hand of Freedom to prevent the druid from slowing you. If the druid is giving you too much trouble by for example reaching you and stunning you, feel free to use Hand of Protection. In this footage I was about to finish off the druid, but he managed to stun me. Under bubble you can continue your burst by using Hammer of Wrath. Hammer of Wrath is usable under Hand of Protection and you can swap seals and use stun under it. If the druid tries to cyclone you or heal himself, interrupt them, either using Blood Elf Racial Silence or use Rebuke. I advise you to make an interrupt macro for Rebuke so it removes your Hand of Protection while you're using an interrupt. It might sound a bit complicated but you can get used to it. It's not always so straightforward as it was in this duel, but I will show you other duels as well. But this sums up the basics. You might have noticed that at the start of the duel it looked like I was having a seizure, but there's actually a reason behind it. I'm randomly turning around so there's a chance that I parry the opening stun of the druid and I can spare my trinket. Yeah, it's a bit of an RNG, but why not take the chances? As you can see in this duel I'm doing the same thing as I did in the previous one. Applying Insight buff, swapping to Seal of Righteousness, then stunning the druid. Applying Seal of Righteousness buff, then swapping to Seals of Truth. However, in this case I started bursting a lot earlier since he was gaining up on me quite fast. I did not even swap to Seal of Justice because the duel was over before I even realized it, since the RNG gods were with me and I critted a lot. I wanted to mention that you don't always have to use your trinket on the opening stun of the feral. Not every feral is capable of bursting you down to 50% HP. However, I do recommend using it. As you can see I'm trying to gain distance while kiting, so the druid tries to answer with Cyclone. There are two ways to counter this. Either keep the druid inside a 10 to 15 yard range, so if he starts casting Cyclone you still have time to get to him in time and interrupt it, or try to kite him further away than 20 yards, since Cyclone has a 20 yard range whereas your Hammer of Wrath has 30 yard range. You might be wondering, but what happens if you don't kill the druid under the kiting session, or the druid manages to Cyclone you? Well, yes, it is possible, especially if you're not playing as a Blood Elf, since you only have one interrupt. You could use Divine Shield, but I don't recommend it, especially if the druid haven't used Incarnation and Berserk, since you are defenseless against him for 30 seconds due to Forbannance. So in this duel I ran out of interrupts since I made a huge mistake by using my Racial on the first Cyclone. The druid manages to Cyclone me. He might be low on health, but this duel is far from over. My wings are down and he's ready to burst. If you have no wings and the druid is bursting you, the best thing to do is to gain as much distance between you two as possible. You do this by using Seal of Justice and using Judgment. So you gain a 65% speed bonus for a short duration and a 20% bonus for 20 seconds. It's also important to keep up the healing from Insight Judgment and to keep the druid dotted with Seals of Truth or Execution Sentence. If the Druid gives you too much trouble, you can use Bubble or Hand of Protection. If you use Hand of Protection and you have no interrupts and no stuns, you cannot prevent the Druid from cycloning you. However, you gain 6 seconds of peace and the Druid is wasting time of his burst. If you're going low on HP, you can use Execution Sentence to heal yourself and survive the Druid's burst. Don't forget to refresh your Sacred Shield when you have time, since I always forget it. If the Druid used his trinket before, it's a good idea to stun him, use Judgment while having Seal of Righteousness, and spam Flash of Light heals on yourself. With the buff that Righteousness provides, you'll be able to heal yourself quite fast. There's one more important thing, it's called Jousting. If you have no wings but you still want to slow your enemy with Seal of Justice, you can apply Seal of Justice and run to your enemy and hit him once with a Crusader Strike or an auto attack and run through him. This way the Druid is slowed and you can gain distance. If the Druid used all his cooldowns, you're safe for another 2.5 minutes, since his burst abilities has 3-minute cooldowns, and the best thing about it is, while the Druid CDs are 3-minute long, yours are only 2 minutes, so he has nothing to counter your second burst, only with Nature Vigil, but if you kite him, he cannot do a thing, so you pretty much won. Reminder, I'm not saying that this tactic will always make you win, however I do think that this is the best way to handle Feral Druids. Anyhow, thanks for watching, I hope you found this guide useful and it will bring you a lot of sad ferals.